Good afternoon, everybody. This is Tiger T, and we would like to welcome you to this edition of Tiger T's podcast. This is our episode 7, and so I want to reiterate some of the things that we talked about on our last episode. We talked about purchasing a vehicle, and we talked about the 3 things that we need to do in order to purchase a vehicle. Number 1, we first of all have to determine our budget. We did a recap session on that. Number 2, we talked about paying cash for a vehicle as a second option. If you don't want to get the financing done, we talked about that. Okay, and then we also we talked about the best time to purchase a vehicle, right? And so I just want to go over some things tonight about our Q&A session, and this is what this episode is about. It is about questions and answers that you guys may have. And so one of the things I want to speak on is that someone asked a question about the out-the-door price. And so I want to get some collaboration. I want to get be more detailed when speaking about the out-the-door price, the OTD, right? So the out-the-door price is basically when you have negotiated a price, right, with the sales agent or the sales manager. And that out-the-door price includes your taxes, right, of the vehicle. It includes your documentation fees, right? It includes all of those things, right? It doesn't include any frivolous charges that they may want to add on. So basically, if that MSRP, your manufacturer suggested retail price, say is $38,000, right? And you have negotiated that deal with that sales manager or sales agent, that is the final cost. That is the final cost. So I want you guys to know that is the final cost of that vehicle, right? So again, when you get ready to purchase a vehicle, make sure that you understand your budget. Make sure you understand your budget. Do not go over your budget. Again, your budget is 10% of your take-home pay from your paycheck at work, or if you're getting a monthly check. Okay, that's how the car dealership sees it, right? So we want to do tonight is if you have some Q&As or questions and answers, questions rather, and I'm going to provide you with the answers of what you may have to say. Someone say, which car holds their value longer? Well, I can tell you from experience, a Mercedes, a BMW, a Lexus, a Toyota, those cars right there, when you drive those cars off the lot, they doesn't increase in value. They hold their value. A Mercedes, right? You can have a Mercedes 10 years old. It's going to keep that value. Now, a Toyota is one of the major cars in the car industry that actually holds its value. If you go to a Blue Book value on a Toyota, let's say 2023, it's 2026 now, you will see that 2023 Toyota Tundra is still about $38,000 to $40,000. Why? Because the Japanese, they take the time and they handcraft their engines, and they make sure that they're putting on craftsman parts. The craftsmanship of their vehicles are much better than the United States. Someone say, "Hey, Tiger T, hello, Lee from the Bayou. How you doing? How you doing?" So someone say, if you're a first-time buyer, should you purchase a new car or a used car? Well, I tell you that. Honestly speaking, has been in the dealership, in the car industry for several years. I dealt with many clients from all walks of life. The best thing to do is, first of all, like I said earlier, understand your budget. Once you understand your budget, right, that will determine whether you can afford a new car or used car. Now, if you're starting off, coming out of high school into college, I suggest that you start in a used car. But if you're well of age, in your 30, 35 on up, if you can afford to get a new car, if that's part of your budget, there's nothing wrong with anything wrong with getting a new car. So it all depends on you, right? And Lee from the Bayou stated, what credit score are you using to qualify me? Well, when I run your credit report, I go through Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, when I do that, I'm pulling a hard inquiry. That hard inquiry depicts 5 to 7 points off your credit score. So if you have visited other car dealerships prior to coming to me, right, I'm going to be able to see that in the system. And you may have been deemed anywhere from 25 to 35 points if you had already stopped at 5 different locations. Okay. So you want to know that. And we talked about credit scores on one of my first episodes and how credit is being broken down, the 5 tiers of credit, right? But what credit score are you using to qualify me? I'm using a combination of all 3, which entails comprise for your FICO score, right? And so if you have a 620 or higher on a vehicle, you can pretty much get good financing. But I would submit to you on tonight that if you really want to get good financing, you need a credit score of 720 or above, right? And for like clients, a customer that comes in that have sometimes 720, 740, we offer them 0% financing, right? And so this is something to keep in mind. It is important to keep your credit in good standings. Are there any penalties for early payoff? No, actually, if you pay your vehicle off early, right, you actually save in interest. For example, if I buy a Toyota Camry for 60 months and my payment is $427 per month for 60 months and my interest rate is 7.2%, right? Instead of paying it off in 60 months, if I pay it off in 48 months, I'm saving about $4,500 right off the top. I know that because I've done the math. I dealt with many customers. So if you want to save money, right, make sure you have a good credit score, right? Because it costs a lot of money to have bad credit. Someone wrote, is it better to buy a car from a dealership or a private seller? Well, that depends on the price of that vehicle, right? So if you're buying a vehicle from a dealership, again, you want to know one major thing, right? Are you going to negotiate a price with me so that I can get the out the door price, right? Or are you going to give me something like a rebate? Are you offering rebates at this time, right? So when you go to the dealership, again, make sure you go to the dealership on the 28th through the 30th to 31st of the month. The last 4 days of the month is the best time to go to the dealership and purchase your vehicle. Not only that, but at the end of each quarter, March, June, right? October through December, those are the best times to purchase a vehicle, as I stated in my last episode. So you want to do your research, you want to do your homework, because that is what is going to save you a lot of money. And as I stated on my last episode, when I went and purchased my truck about 4 years ago, what I did is I knew it was on the 28th, right? And so I knew that the sales manager had a quota, a monthly quota to meet, right? So they tried to charge me so much money on my truck. So I got so much money taken off my truck, right? And I came out, I didn't really have to pay any money down, but what I did, I gave the young gentleman $500 because he was a new salesman, and he didn't really know how the car industry worked. So I was basically coaching him and showing him what to do when you're dealing with different customers, because every customer is different, right? So you have to know what a customer like. You just can't sell a customer a vehicle that you want to sell them, right? So one of the things that I do is when I was selling vehicles, I sit down with my customer. I find out what their lifestyle is. If they like to hunt, if they like to fish, I know they're looking for a truck. If they like to wheel and deal, cruise, I know they're looking for a luxury vehicle. If they like to drive fast, I know they're looking for a sports car. So these different nuances help me understand my customer. And not only that, but when I sit down with them, we become like family. And so once I sell to that customer, they tell their family about me, their mother, father, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. So I obtain revenues and different streams of income, residual income coming in because of the relationship that I built from selling vehicles over the years. Somebody say, can I bring my own financing? Yes, you can bring your own financing. As I stated in the last episode, what you can do, go to that dealership, get a buyer's order, a buyer's guide, take it to that credit union. That credit union approve you, right? You can take it back to the dealership. Instead of the dealership running your credit through different credit agencies, different bureaus, right? They still got to run your credit report, but you have the financing from the credit union side and not the dealership side. Because the dealership, they're going to run your credit through several different, depending on your credit score. If you got a 500 credit score, they're going to run your credit report through Santander. They're going to go through, when you get to 600 credit score, they're going to go through Capital One. They're going to go through these different Bridgecrest. They're going to go through all those, right? If you have low credit score. So yeah, it's best you can bring your own financing in. Someone say, do you buy a car during income tax season? Now let me say this to you. If you're thinking about purchasing a car during income tax season, I highly advise you not to do that. I highly advise you not to do that, right? Because the dealership know one thing, that money is flowing around tax season. So if a car requires you to have $1,000 down, right? They're going to charge you $4,000 or $5,000 down. However, as I stated in my last episode, there is no federal law that requires you to make a down payment on a vehicle. There is no federal law in the state of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida. Nowhere across the United States do you have to make a down payment on a vehicle. The dealership, they implement in their policies and their procedures stating that they want you to pay a down payment, but you don't have to do that. Someone put, what happens if the loan isn't finalized? Well, if you don't finalize a loan, you're not going to be able to walk away from that dealership with a vehicle unless you pay cash. Cash is your only option. Can I refinance later if my credit score improves? Of course. If you have a vehicle and you have purchased your vehicle about 2 or 3 years ago and you notice that your credit score has improved, guess what? You can refinance that vehicle and you can save a lot of money, right? So that is a good thing to do, right? So again, if you're thinking about purchasing a vehicle, make sure, number one, run your credit report. Run your credit report. Because those 3 digits, they speak volumes, right? That credit report, that credit score rather, it stipulates and depicts how credit worthiness you are. In other words, it's your report card. So the banks, the credit unions, and the lending institutions, they look at your credit score and see if they could trust you. So if they find out if they can't trust you, they're going to look at your credit score and they go, if you got low 500s, low 600s, you're considered untrustworthy, right? So that's the world we're living in. Someone wrote, is co-signing for someone a bad idea? Of course it is. As a word of advice, never, ever, ever co-sign for anyone. Never. The reason why I say that is because in the event that person can't pay for that vehicle or meet that monthly note, everything's going back to you. And so if that car get repossessed, right, you're going to have a repossession on your credit report. And that repossession is going to stay on your credit report about 7 years, unless you go through bankruptcy, unless you get a Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 bankruptcy or Chapter 11. But that will stay on your credit report for a minimum of 7 years. All right. Someone, Lee from the Bayou, put, with a large down payment improve my terms? No, it's not. You're giving money away when you put a large down payment. Now, on the other hand, it will improve your loan amount, what you have left to pay. All right. That's number one. Number two, it will improve your MSRP, your manufacturer suggested retail price. It will bottom it out. You know, it will lower your MSRP, right? And it will lower your loan amount that you have on your vehicle. What happens if your finances fall through? What happens if financing falls through? If you're financing a vehicle and it falls through, that finance is predicated upon your credit score, and it's predicated upon that lending institution or that bank or that credit union that you're financing that vehicle with, right? So again, it all goes down to those 3-digit numbers, your credit score. If you have a higher credit score, the less money you're going to pay in interest. If you have a low credit score, you're going to pay a whole lot in interest. And as I stated earlier, it costs a lot of money to have bad credit. So some people, they get financed, they have a low 500 credit score, their financing rate going to be anywhere from 25 to 29%. So in other words, they're going to be paying for a $21,000 car twice. So instead of paying $21,000, they're going to be paying about $43,000 or $44,000, and the bank going to make $23,000 off of the $21,000 that they sold the vehicle for. See, if you don't understand math, if you don't understand numbers, you're going to always be left in the dark. That's why I always tell people it's very important to understand numbers. Life starts with numbers, life ends with numbers. If you don't understand numbers, you're going to be lost in the sauce. So anybody got any questions? Anybody got any other questions for tonight? Again, this is a Q&A segment of episode 7 on purchasing a vehicle. And let me tell you something. Again, I worked at several different dealerships, right? I've seen people come in with low credit scores. They're so happy to get that nice vehicle. But when they realize that they're paying for that vehicle twice, it's too late. So before you purchase a car, I would take a year or two and get that credit straight, because you're going to pay for it dearly. You're going to pay for your car, and you're going to pay for your next door neighbor car. So get your credit straight, ladies and gentlemen. We're living in 2026. If you want to make things move for you, you have to improve your credit score. You have to examine yourself, look into the mirror, and say, listen, this is a new year. I am going to improve my outlook for 2027, right? So start this year. If you don't have good credit, start this year and work on your credit, right? Work on your credit. And if you need some help and some advice before you purchase another car, that's what I do, right? I can give you the blueprint. I can put you on the right road on how to purchase a vehicle the right way. Instead of losing tens and twenties of thousands of dollars, I can save you $10,000 and $20,000. But you must follow the blueprint, right? You must follow the blueprint. What amount am I approved for versus what I should spend? Can you explain what is the best amount to spend? Should I spend all my approved amount or not? No, you don't have to spend all your approved amount. Sorry. So whatever you approved with through Capital One, through different companies, right? Whatever you're approved for, like for example, if you're approved for like $50,000, right? You don't have to spend $50,000. You can spend $25,000 or $20,000, right? I was approved. I think I was approved one time for like $72,000, but I didn't take that and spend on a vehicle. I spent less, right? So again, it goes back to what can you afford, right? Because see, a vehicle is not just about the monthly note. That vehicle comes with fuel costs. It comes with maintenance costs. You have to change your oil. You have to sometimes purchase a battery, right? You have to get the brakes changed. You have to change the alternator, the starter. All these things are prevalent when it comes to a vehicle and keeping the maintenance of your vehicle up, right? Again, so I hope I answered that question to you, Lee from the Bayou. Whatever you approve for through different companies, no, you don't have to use that full amount. Keep this in mind. If you use that full amount, that's the more money that the banks is going to make off of you, right? So if you get approved, let's use this hyperbole of $50,000. If you get approved for a $50,000 vehicle and your interest rate is 7%, right? So in the course of 60 months, right, the bank is going to make approximately about $15,000 to $18,000 off of you in interest rate, right? I know that because I know math. Do the math, add it up. So what you want to do is, if you're young, don't be in a hurry to get a brand new car. If you want one, yeah, that's fine if you can afford it, but don't be in a hurry. Purchase a good used car for about $15,000 to $20,000. They have nice Hondas out there. They have nice Toyotas that are reliable. They have nice little Chevrolet cars that's very reliable out there. So you don't have to get a new car per se. You don't have to do that. Okay. So anybody else out there have a question that that you would like answered, please let me know. And I also like to take this time out to thank all of you for joining in. And before I forget, I want to say to a young lady I met on tonight as I was in Walmart named Angel. Angel, if you're listening, I want to say to you, you shocked me when I met you this afternoon because you told me that you have been watching my podcast on YouTube. You was the first one told me that. And you said, I know you. You look familiar. Well, thank you for tuning in. And thank you for subscribing to my channel. Right. And so we have a lot of things in the next episodes that we're going to talk about. Again, this channel is to educate and to inform you and to make you a better person and to provide situational awareness about life and about the things that we need to know about life that has been hidden from you, right? But I'm here to expose and I'm here to educate and inform. And so if you stick with me and stick with this channel, you're going to learn, you're going to be educated, and you're going to be informed, okay? And that's what this channel is all about, right? So anybody else got any questions? Anybody else got any questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to thank you for tuning in tonight for Tiger T's podcast. And I will see you on the other side. Have a good night.